So to begin with, if each person can make a short statement about the effects on themselves of the crisis and the isolation.
It's been quite difficult for me. I've been up and down with it, mainly because everything that was my routine has completely disappeared. And so I have to kind of recreate it for myself. And that's not very easy. The main thing, I think, is that I need to go out of the house more, to take more exercise, and that would make me feel better. I had a long walk yesterday and was much better after it. So that's really how it strikes me. I was in the centre of town on Wednesday and took some photographs of the centre of Coventry in areas which are normally very busy, and there was not a single person on any of the pictures. And obviously it happens elsewhere as well, but that was really striking.
Okay, let's go to John. Go to John.
Yeah, well, last year I was very busy with exhibitions, and I said I just wanted to paint and play my cello. And it's no excuse now, so I'm just painting and playing my cello. I've got my studio at home, so I'm kind of happy. You know, I mean, artists stay at home in their studios in isolation all the time. I've been working in isolation for many years now, you know, so it's nothing wildly new. The only thing is, I've stopped speaking to people. I mean, I live by myself, so I spend days and days and days not talking to anybody. You know, so I'm going to forget. I'm going to go gaga. So by the end of this, I won't like to communicate with anybody. So this is very useful. Yeah, this is very useful. I used to say that when I retired, every day was like a Saturday. And now even that's not true. There's no structure. There's no routine. I'm bad at routines. So even the structure's gone. I rely on the Radio Times to find out what day it is, basically. Yeah. But personally, I'm doing okay. Yeah. So I was just going to say the Coventry-Dresden thing, we're going ahead with September, should be an artist exchange there from Coventry to Dresden. And we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time in Germany or in Britain. But we're going ahead of it as hopefully that'll be able to happen. So I'm not cancelling or postponing anything on that level.
I'll come back to points that you're making later.
Fair enough, John. Fair enough.
Some interesting features in that. Rabee, how's it affecting you?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. It affected my routine, the structure of my day. My work depends very much on meeting with people, going down to London, attending seminars, lectures. That has come to standstill. Some of these think tanks have actually been holding meetings online, but it's not as effective as being there and engaging in direct conversation with the people. Networking is one thing which is vital for me, so that has been affected very much. With regard to personal life, I do come out of the house for, well, I mean, maybe once or twice a day for cycling, walking. I've been doing that. My office is not very far from where I live, but the building is abandoned, it's deserted, and it doesn't feel very nice. And the central heating has been turned off. So it's not the right place to be there. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay. Sylvia.
Yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, you know, I miss you, and I miss my trip to Coventry. It was planned at the beginning of April until tomorrow, and you see I'm here now. And so it's good that I can see and hear you in the telephone or in the video conference. With my with planning of day, this is not the problem. but I miss, of course, the culture events. I missed my granddaughter. I have seen my granddaughter now, and it's an unusual view in the streets, in the shops. The streets are empty and the parks are not so empty. And the good thing I noticed is, I think, the increasing politeness. And yeah, this is a good thing because, you know, we are not, sometimes we miss a little bit to make distance, or sometimes it's too near for me. And now the people take care and have attention, and we are very it's very nice to get such wonderful information of CAIF and of British Museum. I got an email of our British association from Berlin with all the museums in London. It was also a good experience, not to go to London at British Museum, but I could see the exhibitions too.
Yep.
And I was so, I met a friend, she's the president of the Italian-German Association. You know, I love UK and Italy too. And she was so lovely, and she said to me, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you." And it was, yeah, we are very, ja, wir freuen uns, wenn wir uns sehen.
The next item on the agenda is for you to comment on the impact of the crisis on your locality, the city, and your country. I mean, that's a lot of questions, and maybe you'll have a lot to say. But if I kind of almost skip forward to the next item on the agenda, which was the article about Venice, which Sylvia wanted us to look at. This was where certain people were saying that the architectural biennale shouldn't be postponed indefinitely, but that it should still happen, because architecture is about space. It's about how we live in space. It's how we move in space. It's about the relationship of the physical body to the environment. So perhaps you might want to say something about, and Richard's already spoken about going into the city centre in Coventry, a ghost town. You might want to talk about how space is being occupied today, how you feel about your space, and how you might feel about going into space in the future. How you might want to inhabit and live within urban spaces, because that does have a bearing on how we're going to continue our work. How are we going to meet together in the future? How are we going to relate to each other? So, Richard, over to you.
I think it's too early to say yet, actually. Clearly, meetings like this are going to replace quite a lot of face-to-face meetings. But what really worries me is that it may become much more difficult actually to visit people in person, particularly in a different country, which is what a lot of our business, what a lot of our contacts are all about. So I think it's going to be really tricky, because nobody really knows what the end point of this is. We're just still getting used to a radically different way of working, of living in space. And I think it's going to be really tricky, because a lot of the things that we have become used to, I think, will simply not be there anymore.
Good, that's okay. John?
Yeah, well, lots more things are going to be online in the future. And that's what Richard mentioned. And I think that there's some good stuff about that, and there's some bad stuff about that. And I mean, clearly, some of the good stuff is getting used to be able to have a conversation with other people in Coventry and people in Dresden, for instance. I mean, that's terrific. And we could have done this much earlier, but it's great to be able to do it now.
The spontaneity that we'll lose.
Sorry?
It's the spontaneity that we'll lose.
Oh, yes, but also, I mean, Coventry University has really lacks the idea of remote teaching, online, etc. It's taken like a duck to water because it's cheaper, and it's going to be another excuse for cutting things and giving students less education. And things like with art, the degree show's been cancelled this year. You can't do painting online. You can't do painting through JPEGs. You know, you can't have an exhibition online in painting. You can have a digital exhibition online. You know, you can do digital art in that process, but you can't do it. So I think we can lose lots of things. But one other plus about this is the weather. Sorry, the environment, clean air. Yeah. In Coventry. Exactly. I live near Holyhead Road. It's a horrible, worst road in Coventry. Yeah. You can breathe now.
Yeah? And that's happening everywhere.
Come out. And I think this whole transformation of the environment, we just can't go back to polluting it in the same way we've been doing before.
We would hope not. We would certainly hope not. Rabee, let's hear from you.
There is a bit of summary, I must say. I mean, in the past, when you start a contact with somebody, perhaps that starts with first in an email, then telephone call, then you meet on Skype, and then when you get things at advanced stage, you decide, okay, let's meet then. Shall we meet and speak face to face? That's when you want to carry the discussion or the cooperation into a new phase. And that's the real one, when things materialize into something important. And I can see this is going to be missed. That cannot be, I mean, online, of course, it's a great thing, but it falls short of actually grasping the real results.
Okay, Sylvia, let's hear from you, because you're an architect and you have a sense of space. You wanted to speak about the article about postponing the Venice Biennale and how it's important for architects to have a big contribution to how we're going to live in the future.
I think we notice now how important are friends, how important are meetings with people, and that we need big parks, and the importance of walks and little talks, and that we create our cities to create good spaces to come together, not only by telephone or video conference. And I think, yeah, in Venice, I had a special course in Venice to learn Italian language and to discover the city. And our teacher, he was a member of an institute for Venice history, that is how the city is planned. And Venice has a lot of places and a lot of places to come together. And in our squares and special water and pump stations and a church, every place has cistern, and it's cistern.
Yep. It has a cistern, yes, a fountain, yeah, a spring.
A church and shops around the square, and I think the little shops, I spoke yesterday with a friend, the little shops, the creativity of the little shop owners is so important, not Amazon. And I think I missed a little bit in the crisis, the European solidarity. I'm a little bit sad that we, as Germany, didn't help Italy or France, and you too. And I think we wish, I spoke with my friends, we wish more solidarity, more places to come together. And the globalization, I think, is not always good for everything. And I think our medical system should improve. And we have a lot of hospitals, private hospitals. I think health is not a private thing and not a thing of profit. And yeah, they come together. This is our agenda, or this is our aim. This is the best, and to understand and to help each other. Yeah.
Okay, we've only got 16 minutes left of our 40 minutes.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just going to.
It'll be extended. Actually.
I'm just going to consume a few minutes by saying my own piece. Some of you have already made similar points already. I do think that in a peculiar and perhaps it's a perverse effect, the lockdown has had the unexpected effect of galvanizing activity. Certainly for me personally, I've become very involved in networking for CAIF on behalf of CAIF, trying to put out quite a bit of information on a daily basis and to sustain CAIF. I think it would be very easy at the moment for organisations to become very dormant, to fall by the wayside almost. I'm not saying that CAIF is massively activist, because we've got maybe 30 members, but not so many members are actually active. And I don't get an enormous amount of response for all of the bulletins that I put out. But nevertheless, I think it's very important that we maintain a public presence at the moment, given that we can't have a physical presence.
Yes.
I've been trying to make sure that our city council is very aware of what we're trying to maintain by way of our international contacts. I think one of the things that we have to do in Dresden with the DBG is to make sure that the city council in your city recognises that international solidarity, as you say, is very important.
Wow.
So I can go on, and I think you've already spoken about the effect on the ecology and environment. We've talked about community solidarity. I think fairness and equality are issues that have come into the open. We've seen that, the people who have been sacrificing themselves and their lives in our health services have not been treated fairly and have not been treated with equality and respect in our society. It's certainly in the United Kingdom. And now those issues have come to the forefront. We've seen in our country that the privatisation process has really undermined a lot of the service delivery that we've needed, that we've fallen back on. And there's a recognition now that there is such a thing as society. And as you said, people are more open to each other, they're more friendly, they're supporting each other. Certainly where we live out in this village, we've had very good community support. But I think there are negative effects. I think democracy is being challenged. We're seeing the examples of the one-party states who are successfully locking down their societies and maybe are being more successful in suppressing the virus, because the libertarian instinct that people have to go out and express themselves with unlimited freedom is very dangerous with the epidemic. Sylvia's also made the point about surveillance and the use of artificial intelligence technology, and that's both necessary, but it's a very great danger. And also, in the United Kingdom, we have seen an increase in racist and xenophobic reactions. And from the point of view of international friendship and solidarity, that is something that we have to be very aware of. I won't say any more. Maybe Linda would want to speak, having joined us. Linda?
Well, yeah, I'd just like to say hello. Hello to Sylvia.
Hello.
It took me a while to actually get logged into this. I don't know why. Yeah, I just support what you're saying, Dave. I mean, you've done quite a lot in terms of reaching out. I'd just like to say that we have, just to underline what you said about reaching out to people and being proactive, that we've had quite a lot of response from places in both Volgograd via Olga and Natalia, who we have contact with, but particularly with our friends in Brittany recently. They've been writing some very interesting pieces, and that is very, very warming. That's all I've got to say, really. Yeah.
Okay, we've got about 12 minutes left. The next item on our agenda was going to be what will be the important issues for CAIF and the DBG in Dresden for the future, and can we conceive of new goals for ourselves? How, if you like, how are we going to conduct? Richard's already spoken about this. How are we going to carry on our strong friendship links and our joint activities? So, Richard, there's your chance to speak again.
I think we'll probably find a working process, a modus vivendi, as the situation goes on. As I said, a lot of meetings, a lot of initial meetings at least can happen online. But I think if they do, then we're likely to lose the kind of broadness of approach that we can find through personal meetings. But then personal meetings might not be possible. So I think at the moment, meetings like this are the way that we need to go.
Okay, John.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah, a lot of organisations in the arts sector will disappear when we actually come out of it. A number of organisations won't be there. There won't be the jobs, and there's a whole fear that the cultural sector could be completely decimated by this.
Yeah.
So the Arts Council and Coventry Trust, Coventry City of Culture Trust, are not giving grants out for projects at the moment. They're giving grants out for resilience, to keep people alive, to keep people kind of going in the arts. In terms of Coventry-Dresden Arts Exchange, we're okay. We've already got an Arts Council grant for 2 years. But when we actually are able to do our projects, we're aiming for September start for Coventry artists to go to Dresden. I don't know. That might have to be postponed. And it might be difficult to plan, because the country might open up and then lock down again, and open up and lock down again.
Yeah.
So it might not be a situation of the lockdown finishes and everything's back to normal.
No,
we could be in and out of this for a year, maybe even more.
But the links are important, aren't they? Keeping up the links.
Yeah.
This open contact, either if it's via these sort of meetings or emails or photographs, we're all keeping in contact. That's the most important thing. It would have been easy to think, oh, well, we'll just let this go for a few months. And none of us have.
Okay, I want Rabee to speak. He's next in line to speak.
Well, I hope there will come a time, not very far, when we can physically meet again. I mean, I do miss our meetings in Coventry. I now realize how much those meetings mean to keep my morals high and keep me lively. I do realize now more than any moment ago. I find the physical meetings is irreplaceable, and let's hope that things will improve and we go back to where we were. Really.
Okay, Sylvia. Sylvia, over to you.
Yeah, I think this was a good start today, or is a good start to stay in contact, and so it would be a good idea to continue our contact by video conference. And of course, we miss traveling, and but maybe, and I'm hopeful that we can travel this year.
Oh, wait.
But let's continue by video conference, and maybe every week. I think it's a good thing, and it's also a good thing. It's a WhatsApp group, and yeah, all what we can do.
The item on the agenda, the next item was going to be, how do we engage the young generation? How do we get young people involved? We have spoken about trying to get the links in the schools. We've got some response from Volgograd. We're trying with Van in Brittany, and you have some teachers in the DBG. And we would like to get some of the school children in some of the schools to correspond with our students in Cardinal Newman School. So if we can still continue to press on that project, that would be a really good thing to do.
Yes, yes.
And I also think the young artists in Dresden, as I've spoken about, Lucas and Sophia and Francisca, I'd like to hear from them as well. I'd like them to feel part of what we're doing. Rabee.
Just an idea, those trips which were planned in July and September or in November to Europe, are we gonna do something to? It's not, of course, they can't be replaced online, but are we gonna meet with those people we supposed to be visiting in Europe? Are we gonna hold a meeting like this to see them if those trips are no longer possible?
I think that's possible. This today is the first international Zoom conference that we have held. I don't know whether you yourself have been involved in conferences with your colleagues in Saudi Arabia or wherever, or in the UK. But this is the first one we've done. And tomorrow morning, I plan to log on to a conference call between Volgograd and Tel Aviv in Israel. There is a project that is happening there. It's going to be held in Russian and Italian and Yiddish, so I won't be able to understand anything. I just want to see how it works. But I think, given that today is another successful beginning. Obviously, Mary hasn't participated, and we expected Monica to be here as well, but she's working. I think we can do this again, and as Sylvia's proposed, maybe do it on a weekly basis. I think we could certainly do it on a monthly basis in the future. And I think we could probably get Magda and the people in Kiel, for example. That would be great.
That'd be a good idea.
I think we could do it. If you wanted, we could certainly link with Volgograd. They are very, very, very enthusiastic in Volgograd for the links with Coventry. I mean, Linda, you say something about... Sorry, Richard, you speak. Go on.
I was just going to pick up on that. I think it's a brilliant idea to involve people from other twin cities. Yeah. I'm just a bit concerned about the language issue, because this is very monolingual.
It is.
I think that might make it difficult for a lot of other participants. I don't know what the way around that is.
Yeah, we planned today to give some time for you to speak German together, and we haven't done that, obviously.
Nee, noch nicht.
40 minutes isn't very long, it would appear. We run out of... We'll probably need to have an agenda of one item per meeting, I think, and just meet more regularly. Linda, you may ought to say something.
Dave and I too.
Linda, go on.
I've got nothing. Let Sylvia, she's got something to say.
Sylvia, go ahead.
I'm also very interested in your other Twin Cities relationship and to meet some friends of Volgograd, because I know a little bit Volgograd, because I had with my church, we had a support of a children's house not far away from Volgograd. And so I'm very interested, and I was very impressed to see Volgograd and to see what a rounded city it is. And of course, because of our history, it would be good to come together.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I mean, this project that they're doing in Volgograd with Tel Aviv, Natalia told us today that they also want to have the next conference call, which will happen in May. They are concentrating on the Jewish doctors who sacrificed their lives during the Battle of Stalingrad, and they are linking the sacrifice of the doctors today during the COVID-19 epidemic to that same sense of sacrifice that the medical profession are making. And they are very, very keen to make sure that we commemorate, that we remember these people. I'd read today that we've probably lost maybe 18 members of the National Health Service to the coronavirus. We have got to, I'm not saying we're going to erect monuments to them, put up statues, but we've got to commemorate the sacrifice that they've made. And the same may be true in Dresden. The same may be true in Mosul, for example. We've only got 49 seconds. So I'm gonna bring this meeting to an end very quickly. We will do this again, obviously, maybe sooner rather than later, and we can expand upon some of the talks some of the subject that we've talked about today, and hopefully we'll get more people with more views and more ideas, because we have to hold on to our relationships together and go forward positively into the future. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to an end and stop the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you, and
Cheers.
to you. Richard, when
Hallo.
is your meeting with
Ich maile dir. Das können wir zusammen herausmachen.
Gut, alles klar.
Sylvia, I think the Hoffmans are getting less people knocking their doors now.
Ja, ich werde sie mal anrufen.
Gut.
The
Hoffmans.
Hoffmans, okay.
Wir sind die Hochleute.
Okay.
We went to the wrong address and knocked their doors.
The meeting is now ended.
Yeah. But we can